Hello, and welcome to Situaseans podcast. I'm your host, Sean Michael Williams, aka Shawnee Doo. You can call me Sean, Shawnee, Shawnee Doo. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just glad that y'all are here. Welcome back to the show. I am in your ear. You are listening to the sound of my voice, of my soothing voice, as I guide you along the journey of dating, relationships, and mental health. Yeah, but seriously, thank you guys. Thank you all so much for, tuning in, coming back to the show. Episode 4, we're continuing to grow. Continue to share this podcast with your friends. Share this podcast with the group chat. I know you all out there have your group chats with your friends and family and people that you care about. Why not share this with them? Because I know with 100% certainty that somebody in one of your group chats, if not all your group chats, has something going on in their life, especially with the whole dating, relationship, and mental health aspect. We're all going through stuff, right? So share the podcast with everybody. Like somebody's going to find this podcast valuable. You never know. Somebody besides you are going to want to listen in and be able to share their stories. So continue sharing the podcast. And so many of you have been submitting your stories lately, and oh my goodness. Now, I told you guys in the last episode that each time you guys share the podcast, and whenever you tell me your stories, when you submit your dating and relationship questions and stories, it adds another drip of love on my heart. So guess what? You guys have just dripped even more love onto my heart these last couple weeks. Oh my goodness. I'm feeling the love drip. Keep on submitting your stories and your questions, because other people that are listening, they'll find it valuable. So yes, keep on sharing. And like I said, join the Patreon, the private community. You can get access to all the exclusive stuff, the exclusive episodes and exclusive, content, giveaways. Everything is on there. Even, like I said, I'm going to be sharing some of the screenshots and stuff like that as well. So if you guys want all the tea, you got to come on and join the private community. See what I did there? But yes, join the Patreon, all right? Patreon.com/Situaseans podcast. So I would love to see you guys in there. So come on, join. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about, is love really blind? Of course, we got the TV show Love is Blind. And yeah, so I'm definitely want to be talking a little bit about that, as well as, we have a listener submission that's asking about who should pay for the first date. So there's a lot of juicy stuff in today's episode that I want to cover. And yeah, it's definitely a lot of stuff that's going to tie into what we've been talking about on this podcast, what I've been sharing in previous episodes, and talking about that whole aspect of how, again, mental and emotional health play into dating and relationships, and how those things are intertwined, and how it, pretty much determines whether or not that relationship or situationship is going to survive or not. So, and that's kind of why I'm going to be talking about a little bit about Love is Blind and kind of like my take on it, because yeah, just seeing like this past season of Love is Blind, what is it, season 4 now? So just looking at this new season, I'm like, oh my goodness, like these contestants, they're coming in with a lot of, emotional baggage. And I've seen a lot of projection happening in this season than what we've all seen in previous seasons. Maybe you're kind of seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, you know what, Sean, fuck you. I don't see that. Like, I think everybody in this season was absolutely phenomenal and nobody had issues. All right. I mean, if that's your take, that's your opinion. I mean, who am I to tell you your opinions and your thoughts are valid? I'm just sharing my thoughts and my perspective on how these contestants pretty much brought a lot of baggage from their own, individual past, and yeah, kind of how that made this season a little bit hard for a lot of people to digest, including myself. So yeah, We're going to be talking about, is love really is it really fucking blind, or, is there a gray area? So, yeah. And also a quick little tidbit. I also wanted to share that, again, my whole last week in dating in general definitely has been pretty good too. So I definitely want to kind of, just quickly tell you guys that, overall, again, I'm out there on the dating apps as well. I'm on Hinge right now. Other dating apps I kind of like, turned off in the meantime, because I'm not really finding value on the other apps, just Hinge right now. So even Bumble, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So yeah, but like my past week of dating was pretty good. Went on a date with somebody, and I think it went pretty good. And again, this person, we recently just met, so it's going well. Taking things slow, not really trying to like rush anything, and just getting to know each other. So nobody, I guess, that's like, like new into like the whole, like in my, I guess, dating schedule, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to be more mindful about dating. So my last weekend dating was pretty good. And I definitely feel better these days, because again, I'm pacing myself. I'm not out here serial dating like I once was. So it just feels good to be able to pace it and not feel like I'm rushing. So feels good to just be mindful and just, be within my own parameters that I set for myself, and be within like the goals and standards that I set for myself. So just glad to be able to just breathe for once and not feel like I'm overwhelmed in the dating environment, because so many of us do feel overwhelmed, and I'm just trying to ride the waves and take it slow. So that was my last week in dating. Getting back into Love is Blind season 4, at this point, most of the world has already tuned in and watched. So I don't have to really worry about spoiling it for somebody. And if you haven't seen it yet, and if you're worried about spoilers, then you know what? I suggest that you stop right here at this point, watch the episodes, all the episodes of Love is Blind season 4, and then come back. And, or, maybe just listen to this podcast. Why even stop this podcast? Why would you do that? Why would you do that to your good old pal, Shawnee? Just listen to the podcast and, don't mind any spoilers. Like I said, this week, like this season of Love is Blind was pretty interesting. So it's not like you'd be missing much anyway. So just saying. And this whole season of Love is Blind definitely has been interesting. I'm going to just kind of just start a little bit backwards, like just for like 2 seconds, because the whole live stream thing for Love is Blind season 4. So this was supposed to be the very first time that Love is Blind is doing a live stream via Netflix, because Netflix, as we all know, is like the streaming giant right now. And of course, they've had, one or two other live streams that went pretty well, like the Chris Rock live stream comedy special. So I guess Netflix is trying to get more into live streaming. The one complaint that I have about that, though, is like, I feel like Netflix is starting to turn more into like TV or cable, if that makes sense. It's like, wasn't that the whole point of streaming services, to kind of get us away from cable, to cut the cord? So why, like, example, like some of these shows like Netflix or even other streaming apps, they have all these fucking shows that come out that they give you, we'll give you 1 or 2 episodes per week, and you got to tune in next week to see the next thing that happens, to see what happens next. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's why I cut the cable cord to go over to the streaming services, so that I can watch whenever the fuck I want. Why would I want to wait another week and another week and another week for a show? Like, that was the whole point of streaming services. That's like, it's like now we're going backwards, but I digress. Anyway, so with Netflix's Love is Blind live stream, it was supposed to go off with a hitch, but of course there were hitches everywhere, because the live stream didn't work. No one could sign on, or people were having tech issues, and I tried to sign on myself and I got like an error message. I'm like, well, maybe it's my Netflix account. And then asked friends, a couple of friends, they were like, "Yep, mine isn't working either." Because I was like, "Oh, if somebody else's Netflix isn't working, I'm going over to their place because I want to see this shit live and in real time." Because of course, if somebody's going off or whatever, or somebody's fucking up or some shit like that, of course you're gonna get that in real time or whatever, and you're gonna get their real thoughts right then and there. Ain't nobody cutting anything out. So that's kind of why I would want to see the live stream, because again, all the contestants most of the contestants like on this season were interesting people, to say none the least. So I would have loved to have seen live outtakes and just see like what they were going to say next on live TV. But anyway, wasn't live, and they had to like record it, and then they gave it to us. What was that, like the next day or two? So ended up working out and everything. So yeah, thank goodness for that. But at the same time, still, so the initial live stream I heard was supposed to have been, I guess, like, well, not live stream, but I guess when they were shooting it, it was supposed to be about maybe like, it was like 3 or 4 hours of footage that they had to cut down into like an hour and a half, 2 hours or something like that. So I guess in the end, maybe, the live stream didn't work. Not working was for the best, but who knows? So yeah, people were kind of, social media definitely came for Vanessa Lachey and how she was kind of siding with some of the problematic or the dramatic women, and even some of the dramatic men that that were kind of just, causing problems. Like kind of, and I think the one thing that really stood out to me that really pissed me off was when Vanessa Lachey was getting on, she was pretty much like getting on Marshall's, like pretty much just like drilling down into Marshall and like saying why he is the problem, and not really outlining, okay, well, what did Jacquelina, or is that her name, Jacquelina? I think they call her Jax or whatever, or that's what Marshall calls her. But anyway, so I'm gonna just say Jax. But anyway, they were kind of like just going in on Marshall and not really saying anything about what, Jackie or Jax was saying. And so it was just kind of like, wait a minute, like she was saying some like some stuff to him too. Like, and on top of that, like, didn't she leave Marshall for the other guy anyway? So I mean, like, it's kind of like, why was it that Vanessa was kind of just picking sides and just, I don't know, just causing a lot of like, I think maybe she did it for TV ratings. I don't know. And on top of that, it's just like, the one thing that really stood out to me that it kind of like didn't sit well with me, and I noticed it didn't sit well with a lot of other viewers, was she kept asking, her and Nick were asking, yeah, so when are the babies coming? But mostly came from Vanessa. Yeah, when's the baby coming? When's the first, like Love is Blind baby or whatever is coming? I was like, oh my goodness, like, please stop. Because, she was even asking, Brett and Tiffany, like, yeah, like when are you guys having a baby? And you could tell they were kind of uncomfortable. They were just kind of like, dang, we just tied the knot not too long ago. Like, what is this, like a year, almost like a year now, whatever, between filming and what we saw on the reunion. So it's like, like, give them a chance to kind of get to know each other. And that's the one thing that I think needs to really stop, especially with Love is Blind and the contestants, because like, why are you asking these contestants and pushing them to have a baby when it's like these contestants didn't even know each other a year and some change prior? So it's like they're going to spend the rest of that year getting to know each other before they start to really plan out when our babies come and stuff like that. I mean, the only contestant that I think was pretty much on that, I need a baby now, was fucking Chelsea. Like, she was just like, I want a baby. I want a baby. And she was just like, saying to, pretty much just kind of like telling Kwame, yeah, like, I've been wanting to get married since I was a kid, and I'm ready to get married now. It's like, it's almost like she loved the idea of marriage, and just so happened that her and Kwame, kind of, pretty much had a similar vibe or whatever for the most part. And she just latched onto that. Oh, well, this guy likes me. And so, you know, almost as if she was saying, fuck whether or not we're compatible. Like he likes me, I like him. We got a similar vibe. So, and I want this baby. I'm not getting any younger. I want to have a baby. I want to get married. So I'm going to just go ahead and just, you know, pretty much go after him and just like figure it out from there. But thank goodness Kwame kind of stood his ground and was just like, hey, you know, we're just getting into this and I want to be able to make sure that we have a stable life and make sure that you and I are good before we move to that next chapter. And again, this is where that mental health and that whole life experience, you know, kind of comes into it. Because again, Love is Blind, the whole dating experience on that platform is different than a lot of our dating experiences in real life because they have, what is it, like weeks or whatever between the pods to actually getting to the altar. Whereas, you know, a lot of us, yeah, you know, we take years to build from the first date to getting to the altar. So of course the Love is Blind experience is going to be accelerated because of that fact. Like, yeah, like they're on a reality show in the end. And so they kind of have to make those choices a little bit faster than what a lot of us are conventionally used to. So, yeah. And even, so yeah, getting back to the whole marriage perspective, again, this is where the mental health comes into play. Like you really have to make sure that whenever you're getting closer and closer to your partner and you're thinking about taking that next leap, you have to check in with each other to make sure, okay, is this what we want? And again, if you don't figure it out and talk about it in the beginning, you're going to fight about it in the end. And I've said that in previous episodes. If you don't talk about it, you're going to fight about it. So you have to have those discussions. So thankfully, Kwame stood his ground. And Chelsea, after being with Kwame for a longer period of time, she even said it like on a reunion. Like, yeah, you know, I realized that, you know, because now that we're taking more time to be with each other, yeah, I'm okay with, you know, waiting a little bit longer to have kids, you know, and I'm not, so I was kind of glad to hear that because I was like, oh goodness, like as soon as like they get married, she's going to hop on Kwame and until he gives her a baby. So thank goodness she definitely realized, okay, yeah, maybe I do need to take a couple of months or whatever to kind of figure out where we are and possibly, yeah, maybe a couple of years. So however that goes, cool. I mean, I just hope that they really find their peace and find, you know, what it is that they really want. And it looks like, based off the reunion, it looks like they're pretty much in a better place than where they were before. Because leading up to the altar, I was just like, yeah, it seems like it might not work, but hey, they're figuring it out, and it looks like, you know, they're moving it along and they're pacing themselves. So, hey, like more power to them. The one thing that, you know, that Jacqueline said to Marshall was like, it really irked my soul. And don't come for me if I'm saying like her name wrong, if it's Jax, because I know it's Jacqueline, but I know she goes by Jax or whatever. So don't come for me in the comments and be like, wait a minute, well, actually it's this. I'm just going based off of what they've been like calling her on the show. But anyway, so the one thing that really irked me was when, like Jacqueline and I had told Marshall, be more aggressive. I was like, what the fuck? So she, like, that's why she left Marshall to go for the other guy. And like, I was just, and I say other guy because I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And I'm not about to like go and look at the fuck up. Like, you guys know who the fuck I'm talking about, especially if you've seen the show. Anyway, and then another reason too, because like that guy was kind of annoying. Like, I like his energy, but there were some things about him that was kind of annoying. But he's not the main focus or whatever, since he didn't really have too much airtime on the show, because obviously when Jacqueline ended up locking it in with Marshall. It was, them two until right before the altar when she backed out. But because they didn't even make it to the altar because she didn't even go dress shopping because she was like, you know what? I don't like Marshall. I'm breaking up with him, broke up with him. And then, didn't attend the dress, the dress shopping thing with the other contestants, of course, because, she didn't want to tie the knot, which is fair. And yeah, so that's why she went on a date with the other guy. But anyway, getting back to it, when Jacqueline told Marshall to be more aggressive, that's why she's not really falling deeper in love with him. I was like, wow, like this girl has gone through some shit with some toxic men in the past. Because let me tell you, if you ever encounter a woman or a partner, anybody in general that's telling you to be more aggressive and I understand if they're saying be more direct, but choose your words wisely. Because if you're saying be more aggressive, that's an indicator of someone that's gone through past hurt and trauma. And again, I'm not a mental health counselor, but I've gone through so many experiences, especially, in my last relationship where somebody, they were going through a lot of their trauma and their baggage from their previous relationships and projected it into our relationship. And that's why I had to break it off and go my own way. Cause I was just, not about that, we all got our baggage, but constantly projecting and seeing the new person that the new person that you're dating, if you're presenting all that energy on that new person and pretty much looping that that new person in with the old person, is like, what? Like, you're not even giving anybody a chance. You're just putting all your projections onto the person that you're in love with now at the moment. So anyway, yeah, so she was just telling, Jacqueline was telling Marshall, be more aggressive. I'm just like, yeah, this girl's gone through some hurt and pain. Like somebody in her past definitely either raised their voice at her or, God forbid, knock on wood, manhandled her or something because just seeing that and just seeing how she acted and how she reacted, I was like, oh my goodness, like this girl has seen some shit in her life and she's projecting onto Marshall. Because think of if you saw the show, there was like a few times on that show where they were having a good day, a good ass day. And then all of a sudden, she's like breaking down and being like, I need a moment. Like her behaviors just kept changing. And it was almost kind of like, again, mental health is important. And I'm not undermining or making her seem anything less than, because I'm not, but I'm just saying those traits and everything that she was kind of projecting onto Marshall definitely screamed a bit of maybe like bipolar or something along those lines, because her moods would just continue to kind of just go back and forth. And she wasn't really clear on how she was feeling in the moment. And of course it affected Marshall because he's just like, well, shit, I'm just trying to make sure that you're okay. And Marshall was a saint in those moments for just being with her and just being like, hey, I'm here if you need me. If you don't want to be anywhere around me, that's fine. I'll go chill out over here. And yeah, come get me when you're ready. Come talk to me when you feel you want to talk and you want to continue processing together. So it's very rare that a man like that will be so understanding and calm about it, because yeah, a lot of guys that are put in situations like that, they have their own traumas, and that's why they're toxic and they do these horrific things to women, because those men are damaged in their own lives. And if they see a woman, quote unquote, acting out of pocket or whatever, like that's, if that's like the term that a lot of toxic men use, oh yeah, out of pocket or whatever, or she acted out of pocket. But, if, they're pretty much I guess like showing these traits, if women are showing these traits and like they're going back and forth with their feelings and emotions, a lot of men would be like, you know what? Hell no, like fuck that, I'm out of here, or who do you think you are treating me like that? Like, or they would just do like the same thing to them. They were just like, you know, kind of almost in a form retaliate and just resort to doing the same thing. So the fact that Marshall was just like, hey, it's okay. Like, I'm here for you. I'm gonna console you. And yeah. And if you need anything, come to me. I was like, damn, Marshall, like, you know, you got mad respect for handling it the way that you did. So, hey, you know, like, in that moment, I definitely think that Marshall was pretty much putting up with a lot of stuff that a lot of people necessarily wouldn't put up with. So yeah, in the end, I think Jacqueline just needs to find herself and kind of, you know, figure out what she wants in a partner. And the person that she's with now, that was also on season 4, it looks like they're pretty good together, you know, like just from like an outsider perspective. But of course, the cameras haven't been following them in their private life. So who knows how the two of them are doing. But yeah, I feel like Jacqueline definitely needs to take time to herself and figure out what it is that she wants in a partner, and if she's ready to continue dating, and, you know, and making sure that she's not projecting onto her partner, because if you're just constantly projecting, that emotional toll gets heavier and heavier on your partner, and they can only take it for so long until they explode. And then now you guys are arguing, you can't get along, or again, people are shouting at each other, and it just creates a toxic relationship. So, you know, you got to put your mental and your emotional health first before you jump into a relationship. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not being mindful of yourself, how can you expect anybody else to to want to be mindful of you and want to help take care of you in the end as well? Like, if you can't do nothing for yourself, no one else is going to be able to do it for you. So, oh my goodness. And the toxicity from Irina, she, I think, was the villain of season 4. Like, every season had its villain. Like season 3, who was the villain? Bartiz. Yeah, Bartiz was the villain of season 3. Season 2, I think Shake. Yeah, Shake was the villain. I can't remember. I think season 1 probably had the best fit for that type of show contestants. Season 1 contestants, for the most part, from what I can remember, were they were a little bit more intentional with the date, with that whole Love is Blind experience. But anyway, yeah. So season 4 villain Irina. Oh my goodness, I felt so bad for Zach because like she just displayed so many toxic traits, because I knew this wasn't going to work, because when they first met each other out, like when in the pods, when they're first in the pods, you know how the doors open and they meet halfway to, meet, hug, kiss and all that. When they did that, and they sat down, not even 2 minutes into meeting, she tells Zach to his face, yeah, I think you look like a cartoon character. He was just like, what? And she would just kind of comment on his looks and say he looks funny, and then she was like, yeah, you don't even blink, do you? Because he takes longer increments to blink, I guess, than people she's used to seeing blinking. Even then, it's like, who the fuck notices the intervals of someone blinking? I'm not sitting here talking with somebody and being like, oh yeah, that person took 5 seconds to blink. Oh, wait a minute, now it's 10 seconds. Oh, wait, now it's 20 seconds. Wow, this person doesn't blink at all. Who the fuck does that shit? That's such childish behavior. And so the comments that she made was just childish. And Zach has gone through so much. He was homeless at one point. His mother was a stripper, and that's pretty much how she tried to provide for him as he grew up. And she passed away at some point in his life. And he became a lawyer, like built his own life. Like Zach came from the trenches, essentially. He came from the trenches and he built a life for himself. And this girl, Irina, is just over here just trashing him. And like I'm glad that Zach said, forget it, like after Mexico. And Zach brought up a good point. He was just like, you just want to be on here for, for the views and the notoriety and for the IG followers. Like, you're not even taking this experience seriously. And he was right, because she was over here causing all this drama, and trying to like intervene somewhat for Micah, because Micah had a connection with a couple of people. So she was just like pretty much plotting almost with Micah. Her and Micah were kind of just like, two little bad peas in a pod, like in season 4. So yeah. So I saw on social media recently that Irina's business, because, she's a business owner, her like online business or whatever was getting a lot of flack and bad comments on social media. And she had to like turn off the comments and stuff because people were just trashing it. Yeah. Like, your behavior on these reality TV shows, that's going to follow you like almost the rest of your life. People are going to see you in those moments. And it's just like, again, if you're going to be on reality TV, you need to remember you're on TV. So the things you say and the things you do, other people are going to be able to see that, and they're going to assume that that's your character, because of course all they've seen on you and like during the duration of them watching the show is you portraying yourself as this toxic person. So of course people are going to like trash you online and trash you on social media. It's all about how you present yourself. Even look at like example, like nobody knows who the fuck I am, but I'm just saying, like, I just created this podcast, but people are still going to like be able to like look at this video footage that you're watching, or this audio that you're listening to, and being like, wait a minute, Sean said this, Sean said that. Like, of course, what you present yourself as on the internet, people are gonna take that at face value, because nobody, unless they're a family or close friend, they don't know who the fuck you are. So of course, what you're presenting yourself as to the public, they're going to run with that. So you got to watch how you come off and how you move and how you talk and the things you do. So Irina, that girl, she was pretty toxic. So I'm glad, Zach said, hey, I can't do this anymore. And yeah, Brett and Tiffany, they are season 4 goals, because they were just so close knit with each other. They were just so like warm and welcome to each other, and just like, they were just so in love. And you can see that. You can authentically and wholeheartedly see that. And I think that's what makes it all so like, just so warm, because of course they had their issues. They had their insecurities. Like, Brett is he's really in tune with like his appearance and his looks. And he cares a lot about that. And he works for Nike. He has like a high up position at Nike or whatever. So he got like some, so he got some money and stuff. So of course he's going to be like, looking sharp and stuff like that. And Tiffany, she's very down to earth and has such a big heart. And I think like they just work so well together. But they, from the start, they took their intentions serious, like from day one. And I think that's what made them work so well. So I feel like they kind of remind me of what's the couple from the very first season that ended up lasting, and they're just so beautiful together. I believe it's Cameron, right? Lauren and Cameron, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyway, that first couple from season 1, like, I feel like Brett and Tiffany kind of remind me of them. So yeah, it's good to see that at least one couple out of season 4 was serious from start to finish. Micah and Paul's dynamic was a little bit interesting because like Micah, she liked Paul, and Paul liked Micah, but Paul was a little bit less willing to kind of, I guess, relocate or even, levels with Micah on where they would eventually live once they get deeper and deeper in that relationship. And I feel like Paul still has a little bit of growing up to do because when you go into like when they are filming at his apartment, you just see like his furniture or whatever. It's like it looks very like college dormy, like just a bunch of like mismatched couches that you can find on like Craigslist or some shit. And, like not really nothing that like hanging up or anything that's kind of like, okay, like they're like the feng shui. There was like, it was just kind of just like, yeah, this is just where I rest my head, which is fine. I'm not judging anybody or anything. I'm just saying like, and Paul's I think he's an environmental scientist, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. So I can imagine he's probably gone a lot of the times throughout the year, especially tending to the things that he's doing that's relating to his work. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. And it's like, of course, I'm not going to like have all these nice things at home if I'm like rarely home, but yeah. And so his home felt a little bit crowded to Micah. And so of course, that's why Micah was like, yeah, maybe we can get a place together wherever, it is that she was from. But I guess, again, Paul was like less likely to like, I guess meet halfway. And again, he has his reasons, especially if it's like, okay, if you're already set up in your own like environment, if you're already set up in your own city, why would you move for somebody that you've barely even known like a month or two or whatever at this point when they were filming that particular episode? So of course it's going to be like, yeah, like I'm kind of good here. I don't blame him. I kind of would be the same way. But the thing is, I would still be open. I'll say, hey, I, don't want to move right now because I'm kind of set where I am. And I got to look into some things work-wise, financial-wise to see if it makes sense. And then, yeah, I can definitely talk with you. We can reevaluate that together. But Paul was just like, nope, not moving. So it kind of drove a wedge between him and Micah. And then on top of that, Micah, I definitely got the sense that she likes Paul, but she lets her friends have a lot of influence on her and her decisions, especially her one friend that was drunk when they first met Paul, whatever, when the friends, when they were doing like the whole introduced to family and friends, whatever episode. And yeah, her friend, at some point into the evening, she was like drunk as a skunk, like not Micah, but her friend was like drunk as a skunk a couple hours into that evening. And she just started to just say what was on her mind. I was like, oh shit, and then pulling Micah aside and be like, yeah, he's not like, don't get married. If I were you, I wouldn't get married to him. And, and I remember at Micah and Paul's wedding, Paul ultimately said no, because Micah had said, hey, before I give my decision, I want you to give your decision first, because she knew that Paul was unsure. But anyway, when Paul said no at the altar, Micah's friend was all laughing or whatever. And I'm just like, I just want to be like, fuck you. Like I can see why you're probably single, if she's single, I don't know. But I was just like, why are you laughing at your own friend? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know she was probably like laughing at the whole situation because she knew it was going to happen, but still, why are you taking it so lightly? And this is your friend's wedding. So it's like, yeah, why are you? And I feel like I just said funeral like 2 seconds ago. If I did, apologies, but wedding. But anyway, yeah. So if you're like, why are you making it a laughing matter? Like your friend Micah is at the altar heartbroken because the guy that she's in love with said that he does not want to marry her. Why the fuck are you laughing? I'm just glad that overall Zach and Bliss are happy. Tiffany and Brett are happy, and Kwame and Chelsea are happy. And I just hope I just hope that all the couples that made it, that they continue to, find the happiness that they're looking for. And also, I'm hoping that for season 5, whenever that comes out, Vanessa and Nick, they reevaluate the questions that they're asking these contestants and expecting of these contestants. Because now that this is a popular show, of course, it's not going to be the same thing as it was season 1. You got to treat each season differently, because the more seasons that come out, the more people are going to know about the show, the more or the bigger of an idea that some of these contestants are going to have on this show, because you're going to have contestants that are going to try to game the competition or game the whole experience to their advantage, just to like end up with somebody that's, that they think might work for them, but in the end won't, because again, like they're just playing games. So I don't know. The folks over at Love is Blind need to like vet the contestants. I don't know. Something, I don't know, but yeah, but as far as season 4, Irina, it just feels like she was on there for the views and the attention, but hey, she got it. And it's not the good views and it's not the good attention, but be careful what you wish for. I just hope that moving on to season 5, that if they're going to keep Vanessa and Nick on, they really try to have Vanessa and Nick really reevaluate the questions that they're asking at the reunion and make sure that they're not picking sides, because like that's kind of what caused, a little bit of the tension in the season 4 finale. Like everybody in the world that was watching that felt the tension, because it was just like, oh, like who is somebody gonna leap across the couch and attack somebody? Because woo, you could cut the tension with a knife. But yeah, so I'm hoping that future seasons of Love is Blind, goes off in a better capacity. So we'll see what happens when season 5 comes around. Today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or you just think it would be fun to have your own talk show, podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more within minutes of finishing your recording. Hey, can I let you in a little secret? So I use Buzzsprout to host Situaseans podcast, and let me tell you, it has been the easiest tool I've ever come across for publishing and running a podcast. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. So come on, join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Follow the link in the show notes, and that'll let Buzzsprout know that we sent you. And guess what? That gets you $20 credit if you sign up for a paid plan, and overall, that helps support our show. Let's create something great together. All right, so we got another listener submission, and I'm excited for you all to, kind of listen in or watching if you're on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, watch. Again, all the links to everything is in the show notes. So you can watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/@situationspod. But yeah, so kind of jumping right in, into it, like this listener submission. Again, it talks about who should pay for the first date. So, which is a great question, because we all are trying to like navigate that, especially in modern times. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right on into the listener's submission. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right on into it. So the listener submission says, who do you think should pay for the first date? Or do you think each person should pay separately? Also, how far would you drive to meet a person for a date? Or do you think each person should meet in a town halfway from each neighborhood? Yeah, so I feel like that's a great question. I think, especially now that we're, in the 21st century, and with everything, that's like going on, especially even in our environment, where it's 2020 fucking three. So it does, women pay for the date and men pay for the date. And same thing, with non-binary and even people that, like doesn't matter like your sexual orientation. So it's kind of like, we're seeing more and more neutrality across the spectrum of whoever it is paying for the date. And because we're in 2023, we have different ideologies than, previous generations. Because of course, if you ask Gen X or, baby boomers, they'll say, oh yeah, the man pays for the date, because of course that's kind of the custom and what they were used to when they were out dating and stuff like that. But again, times are different, and across millennials and Gen Z, yeah, we're like, our ideology is, we don't fucking care who pays for the date. Like I'm like, or at least most of us are like have that mindset. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like as long as the bill gets paid, right? So maybe even in this example, and even to your question that you're asking, maybe weigh it out. So let's say you get on that date and, the other person asked you out. Once that tab or the bill comes to the table, you can weigh it out. You can say, hey, do you want to go half? So you can make that offer. And if your date is like, oh yeah, sure, go, like, yeah, absolutely. Then, okay, cool. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but let's say, they asked you out and, the bill comes and then they look to you and was like, hey, are you going to pay that? That's kind of where, it gets a little bit problematic, because it's like, wait a minute, you asked me out. Like, well, what? So I think you have to take it, depending on who asked who out, and then kind of work from there. And, you can always look to see if somebody is pulling out their wallet too, because if you're on that date and, you both pull out your wallet or whatever at the end, I think that's a green flag. That means both of you are willing to pay and you don't mind, and it's not an issue or some sort of like, I guess, power struggle or power dynamic between you two. You're just like, hey, it doesn't matter to me. So I think that's a green flag if you're both reaching for your pocket once that bill comes. But again, if the person that's asking you out first, if they asked you out, they brought you there, then, yeah, I feel like it would be nice if they pay for the date, because they're the one who's asked you out, planning it, hopefully. And yeah, and you can kind of just take it from there. And again, just come at it with an open perspective, because again, we're in modern times and things are different. Like people are a lot less pressured about who pays for what. And in my own dating experience, I can't tell you how many times I've, gone on a date and, I say maybe like 40% of, 40 to 50% of the dates I've gone on, the woman has been, willing to like pay as well. And I'll be like, oh, don't worry about it. Like I got it. And what I'll do in my personal experience, I'll alternate. So let's say if that first date went really well, and we have plans on doing the next date, I'll be like, oh, hey, then how about I get this one, and then you can pick up the tab on the next one. So sometimes that happens as well. And what I've also started doing too, and you can take this however you want, however you want to take this, but, and ladies, I hope you don't think, less than me, but, and I'm not trying to like sound cheap or anything like that, but when it comes to like the date, and let's say the date was like, I don't see anything happening or moving from this point. She doesn't see anything happening as far as like, us like our compatibility and like, yeah, we don't see a future where like or anything like that with each other. Then I'm like, okay, well, why waste my money on all like on this date and cover the entire bill? Like, let's just go half. You know what I mean? So like I'll kind of wait to see, like, so let's say it's a date that, we both are like, yeah, we have fun, but we're not interested in pursuing anything further. So if it's like something like that, then I'll weigh it out. I'll see if they pull out their wallet or whatever, or cause like I'll pull out my wallet first always or whatever. I have no problem doing that, but I'll also see if they're pulling out their wallet. And if they're not, I'm like, hey, yeah, I had a great time. Like, yeah, do you want to just split it this time? And then, yeah, we split it. That way I'm not eating the cost for like a date that none of us, really see a future in. So, so you could play it out that way. Again, they'll probably judge you on the date or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, well, you're not going to see that person ever again. So why the fuck should it matter? Right. And I'm not trying to sound cynical, but I am trying to help provide a little bit of insight so that, you're not going on these dates and paying for dates that aren't going to go anywhere. Like, I mean, why not just save your money? You know what I mean? Like, why spend that extra money for somebody who's not even going to be like in your life? Like, you know what I mean? Who's someone who you're not even going to see next week or anytime after that, unless you guys reconnect in the future. But still, it's like, going on dates ain't cheap. Living ain't cheap. Cost of expenses and just everyday life, it ain't cheap. So you got to kind of, conserve and save your money where you can. So if that means, hey, a date that didn't go well or a date that you just weren't too fond of, why not just ask to split? As far as meeting in different locations, now this is where it gets interesting. So, in my own experience, what I've done is I will literally offer to like meet closer to like my date's side of town or even halfway. And the only reason why is because, again, I want to make it easier or less of an issue, I guess, commuting wise for them to get to the date. So I'll say, hey, and like, as you guys know, Shawnee loves planning. So I love planning, like any and everything. So when it comes to like coordinating these dates on the dating app, I'll be like, oh, hey, here are some like, some suggestions. Like, let me know what works for you. Happy to suggest places closer or in between. Just let me know, So that's what I'll do. I'll kind of just suggest places that are at least closer to them or in the middle point or like, like somewhere in between. Yeah. And I say maybe like 20% of the dates I've gone on, whereas like they didn't have a car. And so I'll definitely have it closer to their side of town so they don't have to like hop on the train or bus or have to Uber it there. So, or, Uber back because, it ain't cheap. So, you kind of have to weigh it out based on what transportation looks like for the both of you. And let's say you, the listener who submitted this question, let's say you don't have reliable transportation, then, you should definitely call that out and just say, oh, hey, I don't have a car or, like I'll have, I don't mind meeting you wherever, but just letting you know, in case I'm a couple minutes late because I don't have a car. So I'm hopping on the train to get there or I'm Ubering it to get there. But if you want, we can meet halfway or we can meet closer to me. Just let me know what you're thinking. So definitely have that open dialogue with your date and try to figure out, okay, like where are we going to meet locationally? So you definitely weigh it out via that way and just ask the questions. Like, because the worst thing someone can say is, no, I don't want to meet there. And if they say that, that makes your job a lot easier because if they're giving off that energy, that lets you know right then and there, they're not willing to compromise. And if they're not willing to compromise on a simple as, location to go on the date, they're not worth your time. Like if that's the case, if they're going to be like short with you or be passive aggressive, yeah, you could just say, all right, well, no worries. Hey, after all, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's best that we don't go on this date because I think it's a waste of our time if you're not willing to at least have the conversation and try to, find middle ground with me on where we want to meet. So that's kind of how you have to play it. You got to look out for your best interest because if you are compromising for all of these people on these dates that you don't even know, you're going to find a whole opening in your own heart and soul because you're putting yourself on the line and opening up yourself for these people that don't even, they don't even care about you. So, because those dates are so fresh and new, and it's about you guys are trying to coordinate that date, it's best to find middle ground. Like it's okay to have it whereas like maybe both people pay and you meet halfway, or if somebody's coming from further away, let's say somebody's coming from like an hour away. I've had that that issue before. Well, not issue, but I've had like that situation happen before. And what I did was, and like they offered to meet closer to me. I was like, oh, like I was offering to meet closer to you, but they was like, oh, no worries. Like, I come into the city a lot, so, it's no problem. I'm like, oh, okay. And after the date, I just paid for the date because I was like, hey, like you drove an hour to come hang out to my side of town, to come hang out with me, to go on this date with me. Of course I don't mind paying. Like, you just put some miles on your car and waste it, not waste it, but you spent some gas, driving down here into the city. So of course I'm gonna work with you. So yeah, that's just kind of how you have to play it. So yeah, definitely do it whereas it works out for both parties. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Again, I'm just so glad to have you guys here. I told you, as I said before, all the information to how you can find us on social media, all the links are in the show notes. So follow us. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's in the video description. So follow us on social media, on all of our channels. Subscribe to the Patreon. Again, share this podcast and rate and review and subscribe. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate Situaseans podcast, and it'll help others see the value in this podcast and want to listen in, and they'll find it, they'll tune in, and they'll share their story. It just creates one whole positive circle of sharing and being vulnerable. So submit your anonymous stories. You got 3 ways. You can email it, situationspod@gmail.com, or you can call the hotline, 312-586-2664, or you can submit via the website, situationspodcast.com/submit. You got 3 ways. So I want to hear from you. Continue to drop sprinklets and little drips, drops, drips, all the little things of love onto my heart. Each time you submit, another drop. So drip, submit. All right. So I will catch you guys next time. Remember, you can take Situaseans podcast wherever you listen to podcasts or watch us on YouTube. Take us everywhere. Share with the group chat. And I will see you guys back here in a couple of weeks. Woo!